say at the end of last year that ownership of the Rebels changed hands. How has this affected the team operation?
Well, James, I think the most positive thing about having new ownership is the idea of having local ownership. This is the first time in 2 years that the Rebels are loaned locally, and what it does for myself and my assistant Bobby Cox is it helps us get to meet some people that we hadn't had a chance to meet before. And right now we're busy selling advertising and fence signs and lining up promotions, and it seems this year that a lot of people are more interested in hearing what we have to say.
Team's got a new manager this year. Tell us who he is and all about it.
Last year's manager, Ed Brinkman, went up to Detroit, and it took a long time for Detroit to find a replacement, and they came up with one, Denny Summers. Denny's been in baseball for about 18 years as a minor league manager and player. Never did make it to the big leagues himself, but a lot of managerial experience and coaching experience. Last year he was the first base coach of the New York Mets, and we're real happy to have him. The word on him is that he's a stern taskmaster and real knowledgeable about baseball.
How about personnel for the upcoming season? What changes do you see?
Well, it's really tough to tell at this point, James, because theoretically all ball players go down to spring training at Lakeland with an equal chance to make the rosters. They've got the 4 different rosters that they've made up as of January 16th, and a lot of names that people will recognize are Bert Geiger, pitcher, Chris Cotteroli, Jim Simmerly, Mike Polvey. These are pitchers that we had last year, but it's really tough to tell at this point. Hopefully we can get the nucleus of the club we had last year, because even though we did finish so poorly in the standings, a lot of these guys were young ball players, never had AA experience.
Around 7:30 this morning, the center span of this railroad bridge over the Alabama River north of Montgomery collapsed. 3 cars containing cotton bales, one of cottonseed meal, and another containing 20,000 gallons of fuel oil went into the water. The tanker of fuel oil is submerged, and officials say there have been no signs of leaks. An Alabama State Trooper helicopter did scan the river for signs of an oil slick. The cars containing the cotton bales did leak, and within a short time, several hundred of the burlap-wrapped packages were bobbing in the waters of the Alabama River. Area boaters like Harvey Lee Checkler wasted no time in rounding up the cotton, perhaps in anticipation of being paid a salvage fee for the recovery. The train's engineer, Billy G. McKnight, said his first indication of trouble was an emergency light on one of the control panels.
We had 76 cars coming from Tuscaloosa going to Montgomery, and we had 26 cars through the river span, and it went in emergency. We were doing about 8 miles an hour, and when it went in emergency, we just stopped. And at that time, we got down and walked back there to see what was the matter, and the river span had fell in. And that's about all I can tell you. We didn't get no jerk other than just the air shot and went in emergency.
Officials of the Illinois Central Gulf Railroad, the Alabama Public Service Commission, the Federal Rail Administration, and the Alabama Water Improvement Commission are on the scene investigating the accident. So far, none of those officials have given a hint about the cause of the collapse. Railroad officials have not yet come up with a plan to remove the derailed cars from the bridge or the 5 cars from the water, but they say the process could take several days. Meanwhile, the work continues to secure the derailed cars and to inspect the railroad bridge for possible signs of what caused its collapse. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
The intenseness of his expression and the tone of his voice indicated that John Mitchell was going to take his former fellow inmates' advice.
Give him hell, Mitchell!
Mitchell spent more time in prison for Watergate-related crimes than any other. His appeals for shorter sentences were repeatedly denied. Today marked the first time in 6 years that no Watergate participants are in prison. Mitchell, leaving for Washington, was met at the prison camp by his attorney, former U.S. Attorney Ira DeMent.
First thing I'll do is thank all those wonderful people that have written the thousands and thousands of letters to me, expressing their prayers and concern and thought. And it's just wonderful to have the feeling that you get from those letters. Secondly, I would like to congratulate you fellows, because this is the last time that you'll have to get up early in the morning to come on out here. You know, you've had to do that every time these public servants in here have given you the word. Thirdly, I'm looking forward to coming back to Alabama to seeing all of my friends down here. And, excuse me, from henceforth, don't call me, I'll call you.
Mitchell was a law partner of Richard Nixon and President Nixon's Attorney General. Mitchell will, however, never be allowed to practice law again, and only Mitchell's closest associates know his future plans. Clark Edwards, WSFA TV News, Maxwell Federal Prison Camp.
A bill delaying the start of the regular session has received its second reading and will be ready for passage in the legislature Monday when it meets at 1 p.m. A resolution creating an interim legislative committee to revise the state constitution has been signed by the leadership of both houses. Among the dozen or so bills to receive second readings today was one sponsored by Phil Kelly of Gunnersville. It would permit those people over 65 years of age who are exempt from paying certain ad valorem taxes to use an affidavit as proof of income.
The biggest problem is they're going to this tax assessor's office, and the tax assessor is requiring them, through the law, of course, to present their federal income tax return. Well, a lot of these people have never filed their federal income tax return. They're on Social Security, fixed income. They don't meet the federal levels requirements, and so they can't apply or are not qualified for their tax exemption. And so we're trying to change that now, and in order that they may qualify through this year to get their tax exemption for their homes.
Through an affidavit?
Through an affidavit. So to make it simple, they have much simply would try to, or just have to sign an affidavit attesting to the fact they don't have to file a federal income tax return. And that, we hope, will eliminate some of the problems they're having right now.
The lawmakers have agreed to return Monday at 1 p.m., meet again on Tuesday at 5, and return here Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning for the final day of this special session. Reporting from the state legislature, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
The viral illness currently traveling across the state is similar to Russian flu. According to Dr. Thomas Chester of the State Health Department, the disease is not fatal under ordinary circumstances. However, older people or persons suffering from a respiratory illness could die from the disease. But there is good news for persons over 30. Because of the regularity of the flu virus cycle, these people probably have been exposed to this particular strain. Dr. Chester says their chances of contracting the disease are very low.
Symptoms consist of high fever, stuffiness, runny nose, head congestion, cough, and muscle aches, sometimes chest pain, and a small percentage of people might have stomach upset.
Could this be dangerous in any way?
People with chronic or debilitating illnesses, such as elderly people or people with, for example, diabetes or lung disease, could get severe enough illness to be fatal. But to the average person, it is usually something that their body can overcome in a period of time.
If indeed this is Russian flu, the possibility of it becoming a statewide or national epidemic is very likely. From the State Health Department, Janet May, WSFA TV News.
It was not the first time in his 28-year coaching career that Hayes has lost his temper. This time it cost him his job.
Alabama State coach James Oliver says Johnny Mitchell is the key to his team's continued success this season. In his first 3 games, the senior guard is averaging 21 points and almost 7 assists per game. Last night against Huntington, Mitchell scored 15 points, mostly on outside jumpers, and dished out 6 assists. Coach Oliver says Mitchell gives Alabama State leadership on the floor, which was the most important thing the team was missing earlier in the year. Oliver also says Mitchell controls the offense and makes things happen. So far, Mitchell has made things happen for ASU. The Hornets are undefeated in NAIA District 27 and appear to be headed for the district's playoffs in March. James Spann, WSFA TV Sports.
And basically, I believe that action will accomplish several things. I think it will make state government more efficient. I think it's a move to strengthen the merit system, and I also believe it will have a positive effect in letting all state employees know from henceforth promotions will be based on performance and nothing else except performance. So that was the dual purpose, to save the taxpayers as much money as we can by making government more efficient, and to move to strengthen the merit system and make it work as it was intended to work.
We were downtown. This is the first one we got. This window, 6 o'clock is the final.
Those persons who would be covered by the provisions of House Bill 9 are persons who continue their affiliation with the Bar Association and their support. They have all the rights and privileges of membership. These people currently pay a fee of $15 annually. We are asking in this legislation that that fee be raised to 50% of whatever the annual license fee charge is. If the license fee remained at $65, of course these people would be paying $32.50 next October as opposed to $15. House Bill 10 is a bill which would modify the current limits at which a bar examination fee is set. What we are asking in House Bill 10 is that the Commission be allowed new maximum limits to which they may set examination fees. The Senate Judiciary Committee this morning, in its committee amendment to the House version, would give the Commission $30 latitude by allowing the fee to be up to $130 for a resident, and in addition thereto we may charge an additional fee not to exceed $175 for those persons who would be classified as non-residents.
Got it?
Executives
Well,
of
it's,
Dozier Electric Company
another
and
one of those
dignitaries
good
from the
occasions,
state
and
and
I'd
Pell
just like to
City
welcome
area
you to
greeted Governor
Alabama
James
and
shortly
Pell
before the
City.
announcement this afternoon.
I
Jim
think you'll
Hastings,
like
president of the
$30
Illinois-based electric company, said the proposed plant will employ up to 100 men and women and will net approximately $4 million annually, $1 million of which will go into the local payroll.
I'd like to say that we did look at 4 states in the southeastern part of the country prior to selecting Alabama, and we found the site of Pell City best suited our needs, and we're very happy to be here.
Alabama Industrial Development will conduct pre-hire training for men and women selected by the company. However, an anticipated completion date for the project was not given. Before Governor James took office, he promised to sell the state in every major boardroom throughout the country. And seemingly, this is the first step in holding true to that promise. From the state capitol, Janet May, WSFA TV News.
This is The Strip. It's a business and light industrial area in southwest Montgomery. Montgomery police and admitted prostitutes say for 1 mile from Gowan's truck stop on the southern bypass north on the Mobile Highway, violent crime rates are very high, especially assaults and strong-arm robbery. This is Herb's Motel. Police and admitted prostitutes say the place is a meeting ground for sex for sale, drug traffic, and at least one murder.
How do you know that the people who work at Herb's, the manager and the bartender, you say, make arrangements for the prostitutes to have business there?
Well, a friend of mine's, you know, he had took me down there and left me down there and told me that he pointed the guy out to me and said that he was going to take care of me. If I had a date or something, you know, he was going to show me where the room and stuff was.
Did that occur?
Yeah, I got the date, but I didn't use the room, though.
Today, Herb's Motel manager Herbert McGowan labeled all charges against his operation of the business by police and prostitutes false.
People come, you know, down from the truck stop and etc. You know, I have no jurisdiction over who I register and who they are. I register them and they give me the proper information that I need on my card, and which is, I have a card here, and they fill it out and they give the, you know, where they from and etc. And so then I go from there.
Okay, the police say that you don't properly register people. The man who was killed here was not registered here, they say.
Well, on that, the police department know, and the guy testified that when he came out of the room, 22, that the guy asked this other guy for this room. Now, once they get the key, and they can let anybody in.
You mentioned earlier there were other places of business that had some violence and problems.
For instance, across the street, a couple people been killed, I understand. But you don't hear too much about it. But Herb Lounge, it seems as though it's a jumping off place for thieves and everything else. But why? I try to run a decent business. I'm a businessman, and I don't know why they do it. And I would like to meet with the officials. If we can work it out, I would like to be done, because I want a good, legitimate business where people can come and have fun and have a place to stay.
In an effort to solve the problem of crime here along the Strip, more frequent police patrols have been ordered. City officials hope that will do something to curb the problem. So far, they have not been able to come up with a solution to end the problem here on the Strip. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Mr. Chambers has a piece of land of approximately 15 acres that he would like to donate to the band of the DAF and others. And it's an excellent location. It's right in integrated area.
Mr. Johnson, here we and Dr. Winston.
CEA.
Wait a minute, I ain't got to that yet. Hold on.
79 calendar. On the line of the dates in December that the schools were to be closed, that was the 19th, one day later after the 1st, which would be in conjunction with other problems, we always supply the proper school board.
The state of Alabama maintains a rather large computer system. This system is used by virtually every department of state government. At present, the facilities are located in many parts of the state and several within the city of Montgomery. The Department of Finance's Data System Management Division is working hard to develop a better working consolidated computer system. This means moving many of the computer processors and associated software and hardware equipment into new facilities. The new computer center is being built in the State Administrative Office building. The Director of Data Systems Management, James Rowell, says the consolidation came about as the result of a cost-control study.
The move you see on the way here is a relocation of some equipment presently located on Court Street, and some equipment in the Highway Department will be relocated into these two rooms.
How will this enable the state departments that use computers to function better?
The environment that you see is a planned environment for a computer facility. You have raised flooring, adequate air conditioning, adequate power. The facilities that we've had to use in the past are makeshift operations that have been renovated for computers. This is designed for a computer environment.
Is this the first time the state has had such?
Yes.
What sort of cost avoidance factors are involved?
A recent study completed by Troy State University pointed out that had we kept going in the direction that we were going in 1973, we would today be spending in excess of $24 million. The survey pointed out that we're currently spending below $16 million.
Rowell said the computers have never had the right environment. By that, he meant working conditions. The present facilities are overcrowded, and with that much electronic equipment buzzing, blinking, and humming in such a small room, there is a heat problem. So far, they've been able to ease the heat problems by the use of large fans placed around the computer system components. The new system, which consists of processors, disk drives, both old and new, magnetic tape drive systems, printers, and control equipment, will also enjoy security in the new room. Rowell says a series of passwords are necessary to activate the computers, but before that, he said a potential computer tamperer would have to get through the security surrounding the room itself. Another added feature, he said, is an independent power system in case the electricity is shut off. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
The majority of produce sold in Alabama supermarkets at this time of year comes from out of state, from places such as Florida, California, South Texas, and even from Mexico. Retail prices of these fresh market vegetables are expected to average about 10% more than the cost of last winter's produce. Alabama Farm Bureau spokesman Dick Fifield says the price hike is due to several factors.
Seen this year an overall increase of about 8% in fresh vegetable plantings across the country, primarily in California and Florida and South Texas. So the problem I guess in summing it up, is that we're having some labor disputes in California that are raising Cain with some of the produce, primarily lettuce. We've seen some bad weather conditions in Florida, particularly in the early stages of the crop, the tomato crop, that have caused a really significant decrease in production. I think the consumer, with the increased plantings that we have on the fields right now, should be able, if we get good weather and there are not too many labor disputes, should be able to look forward to a stable produce price or possibly even a decreased price.
As spring arrives, prices are expected to decrease further, but the cost of next winter's produce may be determined by the farmer. According to Fifield, if the farmer plants less, the consumers could be paying more. Elaine Stewart, WSFA TV News.
Over 500,000 school-aged children in Alabama were immunized last year against childhood diseases such as polio, diphtheria, rubella, mumps, tetanus, and pertussis. Immunization spokesman Francis Kennemer says the department didn't set out to win any awards. Their only objective was to reach any unprotected child in Alabama's 67 counties.
We are working now under a 2-year national immunization initiative. This is a 2-year project which hopes to immunize about 90% of the children in Alabama against childhood diseases by 1980. And what we did here at the Alabama Immunization Program was to look at all the children in the state and see which ones needed immunizations as a group the most. And when we started the program, we felt that the greatest need was in the older children in school, children who, say, are in 6th grade through 12th grade. So we began doing immunization clinics in the school last February, and when we finished the clinics right before Christmas this year, we found that we are the only state to have finished clinics in all the counties under this initiative. So we sort of stumbled into #1, but we are very proud to claim it, and I know parents are very proud that their children are now protected through the school clinics.
She adds that some of the older kids didn't want to take the shots, and now several outbreaks of measles are being reported in the South Alabama area. Janet May, WSFA TV News.
In 1972, there were less than 5,000 licensed real estate brokers and salespersons in Alabama. Now over 17,000 persons are licensed by the state to handle real estate transactions. Those qualifying for taking the test each month number over 600. Mary Goodwin, director of Alabama's Real Estate Commission, says lowered educational requirements may be the reason for the upsurge in real estate professionals.
Then I think we went through a period of high unemployment rate in the state of Alabama. And they felt like this was a means of income whereby they could supplement any other income that they might have.
Montgomery's Don Sawyer is one of the state's most successful real estate executives. He says economic growth in Alabama and the housing market is a reason for the growing numbers of persons taking the real estate brokers and sales test.
Montgomery and Alabama, of course, is growing at a tremendous rate. The interest in Alabama is more than it's ever been. Plus, I think folks are seeing how important home ownership in itself is. We did a recent survey for a client out of St. Louis, and we charted the inflationary progress of a house for the last 20 years. In 1959, the average price house in Montgomery was $12,500. Today it's $42,700, probably a 13% annual increase. And I think as people watch that and combined with the growth of Montgomery and Alabama, I think you're going to see more interest.
Other experts in the field say as the state grows industry-wise and in other areas, so will the number of real estate professionals, and the testing room at the Real Estate Commission will be jammed each testing session. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.